Let's look at this and more now. We're joined by Dr Sifiso Ntombela, who is the Special Advisor to the Minister at the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. Thank you so much, Dr Ntombela, for your time. So let's just tell the viewers, I mean, it is numbers, it is a concerning situation, but how bad is it at a practical sense?
Good evening, Bongo, and good evening to your viewers. Thank you for having me. Indeed, it is looking concerning in terms of the changing weather patterns and the intensifying heat wave. As we spoke, we looked at from the assessment of the crop estimate, which is basically the committee run by the government together with the industries. We're looking at now generally in terms of the summer crops about 21% down from the expected harvest that we initially had. If you zoom down to different commodities, if you're looking at the white maize, for example, is around about 26%, and in some of the soybeans, which are very crucial for animal feed, it's now sitting on the regions around 30% in comparison year on year with last year. Now, while this is bad, I think it's very important to say, what does it mean for our food security and the availability of food as a country? I think what we know is that in terms of our food demand for the South African citizens, we are confident that we'll meet all the local food demand, as well as to the large extent some of the regions, as we know that South Africa also plays a crucial role in the region, as we know that equally Zimbabwe, Mozambique, and other countries in the region are facing similar challenges. When we're looking at the stock levels that are reserved, the country has, together with the expected crop that we'll have this year, albeit of course of the decline that we have mentioned, we still believe we have relatively good stock to meet the demand of it.
So there's nothing to be concerned about at this stage about the food security issue, as you say?
Perhaps from the consumer perspective, one of the issues that might be concerning is the potential rise in terms of food affordability in terms of price. Yeah. We've seen particularly for the white maize that the market is starting to react into the numbers that are coming in and the expected decline on crop. But in terms of availability of food, the country will be able to meet its demand. One of the areas which might be impacted in the short term is actually the farmers' ability to also export, as we know that they also tend to generate high revenue from the export market. So that portion of the country's export might be affected in the near term. One of the major challenges which we're having right now, which we are concerned, is also the farmers' ability to safeguard and to cushion some of the challenges, some of the losses that they have, but also ensure that there's business continuity beyond this drought so that they can be able to plant. Because we've seen is that it's not a uniform impact across the different regions and farmers. Some farmers are severely impacted than others. Equally, in some of the regions are severely impacted than others, which also shows this weather variability that is not uniform across the country.
So we're talking, of course, about this particular drought, and someone would say, but how possible is it that we're still talking about problems when, you know, last night we saw the rain in some parts of the country, we still have rain that is forecasted for the weekend. So let's try to answer that question for a viewer who's watching tonight and not able to reconcile the two.
So what you have as a typical food basket is a composite of different commodities. And one of those commodities which are critical, especially for the food consumed at home, will be, I think, in this stage, is the white maize, which basically give rise into our maize meal. So that's one area that is having an impact. And the question which we will be having to deal with and trying to concern is then, how do we assist those white maize farmers to ensure that they are able to safely land if they're having challenges with it? But remember, we not only eat starch, you also have animals, which are the biggest weight in our food basket. And we are moving towards winter now. So the weather could still deteriorate further. So how do we then already now start preparing and ensuring that we safeguard farmers with the winter feeding crop, and so that those animals can be able to come into the market and have the availability of food. So it is then the position to then say, you are faced with this issue before it becomes even a challenge for food security. Already right now, we know it is a challenge for our farmers because our farmers plant because of the production loan that they've taken. With the expected losses, it means that in the pocket of a farmer, they might not be able to service their loans. Some of them, they might not even be able to service their contract that they have with the market. So the question then becomes, right now, to be a very proactive state and industry as a whole, how do you then ensure that you safeguard those farmers? But equally, where we see we might have shortages of some of the commodities, what measures do you already put them now to ensure that we can source those commodities in the international market using our trade protocols that we have set out, and make sure that there's a minimum instabilities in our food sector, but there is a guarantee of access to food, which is the primary objective of the industry and every farmer and government in the country.
And quite important indeed. And I hope we speak again then after that meeting that the minister will then be having with the MECs, the industry players, in order to try and do what you've just said now, to assist, some of those who have been impacted in order to make sure that we do not have a crisis. But thank you so much for talking to us. Do appreciate your time. That is Dr. Sifiso Ntombela, Special Advisor to the Minister of the Department of Agriculture, Land Reform, as well as Rural Development.